Welcome to What's the Deal with Sam? Starring Sam Lilly. Join Sam as he discusses a wide variety of topics.
Batman.
Now let's start the show.
Thank you.
What's the deal with pronouns? They're like amateur nouns with the ground. I just thought of that before I hit record. That's pretty good. I'll look at my notes a little bit because this is a touchy subject and I'm gonna get yelled at maybe anyways. I don't give a shit. I don't know. I've heard a lot of stuff about people and their pronouns and stuff with that. I guess I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents on the thing. Wow, what a funny idea for my comedy show. But basically, I guess I just wanted to throw in this idea that, like, so basically right now, I guess the idea of, like, I think it's probably fine, like, anybody who wants to use he or she or even they, those are fine. I don't think anybody really has problems with those. Like, they is a little, like, whatever, because, like, usually you use they when you don't know somebody's gender, or it's like a group of people, so it can be a little confusing there, but easy. Not that hard to use. It's a pronoun we already exists very easily to use. Neopronouns, sorry, we're not there yet. And that's the thing where it's like, there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on to that, and that kind of jumps into the idea of like, well, just because I use the pronoun of wanting to be, some weird thing that nobody knows is a pronoun quite yet as a standard English language thing. That, like, which is the only reason it's really weird right now is because we don't use it all the time, right? Maybe it'll be normal later. But, like, the problem with using those is that people are kind of afraid of, like, some people are like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean I think I'm that gender. That's just the pronouns I want. And then what is gender, and that's the whole thing, and I don't want to get into that shit, because, like, it's not even super important. It's not even, like, that's generally, like, a social thing anyways. It's not super important as long as people treat you the way, relatively the way you want to be treated. It's never going to be perfect. Nobody's going to treat me the way I would ideally like to be treated all the time, but whatever, close. If we can get close enough, you can live with it, cool, right? And the thing is, I think the big battleground right here is with its pronouns. That's the hard one, because, like, it is a pronoun, but, like, we usually use that in terms of, like, objects. We don't want to objectify people like that, or, like, animals, and, like, and when we use it for animals, we usually use that for, like, animals where we don't know the gender of them, or whatever, the sex of them. Animals where we do, because really, animals aren't necessarily even all that gendered in the same way, because that's like a social thing. We just have an idea of that, and so since we don't really conceptually understand, like, the way animals socially interact with each other, people will pretend like they do, like, oh, you actually see them doing that, like, yeah, but, like, most people, not really, you don't have the same, it's like an animal, it's being like, yeah, an animal totally understands, how humans interact socially. Like, no, they fucking don't. They observe shit, and they're like, I don't know, that's a pattern thing I saw, I guess. I guess I'll get used to that when I see it enough. But, like, we don't really know how they interact, so we couldn't possibly tell if, like a male animal identified as, like, being like, oh, like, well, I feel like I'm a girl animal, even though I'm my sex is a male animal. We don't have, like, the separation there with them, because we can't communicate with them on that level to understand that. We can't observe them from that level. We have a very different structure of how we are and our bodies and our brains and all that shit, so we can't fucking do that. And so, like, that's the thing too, is that since we don't really know, we kind of just map that directly onto the binary of, like, well, if it's a male animal, it's a he. It's a female animal, it's a she. Because we use those for when they're, like, our pets mostly, right? When you want to humanize them a bit more and be like, oh, he or she, like, oh yeah, he's doing that, and like, that's, whatever, my dog, he's out doing this thing. It's like, whereas it was just a random dog out doing this thing, you're like, I don't know, that dog, it's doing that thing, like. And I think it's just that's why those pronouns are, like, probably the hardest ones to push forward, because it's like, yes, we do still know those, but we don't use those the same way that we would use like we don't talk about people as it. We would see it as being very dehumanizing if we said somebody was it, right? Like, oh, that's what it said. Like, that sounds like super fucking like mean. And there's like, generally people will use it that way. And so like, I guess it's possible that could shift, but that's why it's really, really hard to, because that's like, it's like trying to bring up some other thing. It's like, we don't usually say, like asshole is a nice thing, but like, we say asshole enough, like, yeah. Or like trying to reclaim the word bitch. It's like, yeah, I want to reclaim the word bitch. I want it to be like a good thing. Like, yes, bitch. Like, okay, but like if you just call somebody a bitch, most people are still going to think that's a bad thing. It's going to be really hard for them to accept that you're calling somebody a bitch as a nice thing without the proper context. And since the context for like using pronouns seems almost kind of ambiguous too, like it almost seems like it's a similar thing of like just using somebody else's, like someone's like incorrect pronouns, like, oh, they transitioned, and you still use the pre-transition pronouns, right? And then it's like, oh, well, you could say it totally casually, like in a context, it doesn't seem like you're trying to say anything bad about the person. But if you're using the incorrect pronouns on purpose, like that seems like really shitty. And that would be the same thing if you used it instead of like he, she, they, one of those or something, right? Like if you use those, people wouldn't think twice about it if it was correct. But if you're using it, you'd be like, fucking it, like that's a person you're talking about. It's like, I know that's their pronouns. It's like, that's going to be the hardest sell, and I don't really know I don't know where that's going to go in the future. That's probably the hardest one. And I think that basically, if you're ever going to get people to really like get on board with neo-pronouns, that's going to be that's going to be the hurdle to jump over. And I think that I think should be fine as a catch-all. I don't know why people are upset with they either. I don't know why that's like a big deal. But again, that doesn't really matter what I think on that sense, really, because I'm a fucking cis dude. I'm just a guy. So you look at me and you probably think he anyways, and you're right. And you'll say it. And, I've had people mistakenly call me, ma'am on the phone. Because, you can't see me. And you just assume that it's a woman answering it, I guess. I don't know. That's fine. I don't give a shit. I'm not, like, bothered by it. But I've also been, comfortable with being a dude forever. So it's not like it really bothers me. I'm not like, whoa. Somebody's treating me like a woman. Like, no, obviously it doesn't bother me because I don't have any problems with my identity in that way. I know who and what I am, so it doesn't bother me. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I just thought it was an interesting take on like the it's thing, where it's like with animals and pets and like the idea of like the blurry line there and why that's, I don't know, not a very funny thing. Like I said, it's not I maybe shouldn't be hitting topics that are, like, pseudo-political. I don't really feel like it's a political thing that I'm talking about. Everything is political in some sense, I guess you could say. But, like, I just think it's more of a thing of, like, I don't know. Just think about it, be mindful about it, like, I don't know. Don't be assholes to people. I think if you don't mind using the pronouns with people that want you to use them, or if it's a really important thing that you use those pronouns with them, whatever, just do it. Like, it's not like a big deal, I guess. But it's just, that's kind of why it's been difficult for people to accept those ones. That's the one where I think, like, I at least understand people having struggles with it. And anything beyond that, for, like, most of the populace right now. But, whatever. Again, it doesn't really... I'm just a dude, so it doesn't really, me talking about it doesn't really mean anything. So, yeah. Glad I spent a whole episode to say, like, hey, here's my opinion that doesn't matter. But, we gotta fill out those episodes. We gotta hit 1,000 episodes somehow, and boy, this is one way to do it. I'm sure there are better ways to do it, or just, why do we need to hit 1,000? I don't know. Because we probably can eventually. I don't know. It's just, you just do it long enough. You just keep doing the same shit long enough. Eventually, you're going to hit 1,000. It's easy. Really. Look, being a YouTuber is easy. Being successful is... I can't talk about that either because I'm me. What's the deal with Sam? What's the deal?